I read a lot about the way the third world is represented in other textbooks in the world, in Europe or here, like Indians, First Nations, etc., etc. And I came across the strategies of racist discourse, and what caught my eye was that all these categories really apply to Israeli textbooks. First of all, not to represent them at all. For example, visually, Palestinians are not represented at all in Israeli textbooks. Now, Israeli books, tens of books that I looked at, you cannot find one photograph of a human being who is a Palestinian. And if you think that we have 20% of Israeli citizens are Palestinians, not to speak about the Palestinians in the territories, in the occupied territories, who are about 5 million, it's a bit odd. You never see a Palestinian doctor or teacher or child. And the only way they are represented are as the problems and threats Israel considers them to be. For example, as terrorists, so you see face-covered figures, or as primitive farmers. You see farmers behind the primitive plow with oxen, or in racist cartoons that really look like Alibaba sort of cartoons that were painted and drawn by European artists in the 18th or 19th century, which don't represent anybody who really lives in Israel, but wherever they speak about the citizens of the state, of the Arab, what they call the Arab citizens, this is what you see, these images. So they're either refugees, primitive farmers, terrorists, or absent. For example, you can see, I don't know, in a chapter called The Refugee Problem, they show you an over-flooded street in a poor neighborhood with no people, and they tell you this is the Palestinian problem. Or you can see an aerial photograph of some shanty town, and they tell you this is a Palestinian refugee camp. But you never see people, you never see human beings. So this is one thing, not to show them at all. The other thing is to show them or to speak about them as problems. So it's always in a group, it's always as a collective, and it's always as a problem, threat, and even poisonous problem. And all this is part of what is called the categories of racist discourse.
The State Board of Education just approved new rules for how to teach Black history in public schools. And according to the Washington Post, the new standards say students should learn that enslaved people develop skills that, quote, could be applied for their personal benefit. And that during lessons about mob violence against Black residents, teachers should include acts of violence perpetrated against and by African Americans. Context always matters, right? Florida's education commissioner argues that these changes will make the history curriculum more, quote, robust. So he's claiming this means students will learn more of the history. What do you see as the longer-term impact of?
Right, it's ridiculous. How is it more robust? Help us understand what that might mean. Robust in terms of what? More rigorous in its approach? No, it's not. It is distorted. It is taking U.S. history, in this case, African-American contributions to history, and not just history, but culture, politics, sociology, and the like. It is taking the experiences of marginalized peoples and putting them on the chopping block of a ideology and a politics that is destructive. What impact will it have? It will deny young students access to rigorous history, to robust history, to an accounting of America for what it has done in the past that has been glorious and has been grievous. The point of history is for us to learn from that past in order to apply lessons to the present. What Florida wants to do is to distort what happened back then so they can manipulate what's going on now. The two are intimately webbed, and I think tragically so in the case of